Alright guys, so we are back in my garage for another video, and today we are going to be coding my BMW X7. Now the good news is a lot of modern BMWs look very similar, so if your dashboard looks like this, then a lot of this coding should apply to you. But honestly, this is one of the main things we do, especially on lower trims. If you've got like a 3 Series, usually you code your car so that you can enable options that were available on nicer vehicles like this, but weren't really offered from BMW. But believe it or not, even though this car cost $90,000 when it was new, it still was missing a bunch of features that I think it should have. So we're going to go ahead and code it, add all the features that this car needs to make it 100% what I want, and I'll take you guys along to show you how this works. So hopefully you guys find this video useful. Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. Now, really quick, I just want to jump in here and let you guys know that most of the coding we're going to do in this video is relatively simple. We're just kind of checking boxes and things in an app that we're going to use. If you guys want to see more detailed expert mode coding, let me know and I'll make a longer video with more of that information. It's a little more in depth, definitely something that's a little bit trickier, but it has a lot better results. So let me know if you guys want to see more of the expert mode coding in a future video. So in order to code your car, you're going to need two things. The first thing is, of course, an app that can actually do the coding for you. And the one we're going to be using today is Bimmercode. It's a free app that you can download from the Google Play Store as well as the Apple Store. But keep in mind, you do need to pay for a license in order to use its full functionality. I highly recommend that. It's going to be necessary for some of the features that we're going to enable today. So check out the link in the video description for more information on the app, and then find the option that works for your device and download that first. Now, the next thing you're going to need is an adapter for the OBD port, and that's how you're going to connect from your phone to the car. Now, there are two different options. The first one is this OBD Link CX adapter. This is actually made for the Bimmercode app, so they recommend this a lot because, of course, it's made for their app. It does work pretty well, but it is a Bluetooth adapter. So I will have this linked in the video description if you want the one that's actually recommended by Bimmerlink or Bimmercode. But what we're going to be using today is the MHD Universal app. Now, this is a Wi-Fi adapter, so it's a little bit faster. And this one also works if you're tuning your engine, your transmission, pretty much all functionality. That's why it's called a universal adapter. So it works for everything that you would want, even more than just coding your car. I will also have a link to this in the video description, but this is the one that I personally use for all of my, phone connection needs. So we'll go ahead and plug this into the OBD port. If you have the OBD Links adapter, you have to use their software in order to connect to it the first time. But if you have the MHD adapter like what I have, then you just connect to it through your Wi-Fi network. Now, once you've got your phone connected to the adapter, the next thing we're going to do is open up the app. So hit connect, and then it probably needs an update. Since I haven't used it for a while, mine needs an update. So go ahead and do the update for your car. And then we're going to go ahead and select the adapter that we have. So scroll down, select MHD Universal eNet in my case, and then hit connect. And then you're going to have to select your car. So I will select BMW X7 and then continue. And then it's going to identify all of the ECUs on your car, and then you see all of the different options. Now, the cool thing is anytime you click on one of these, it automatically backs it up. So if you click on the first one, for example, you'll see the first thing that it does is generate a backup for this module on your car. And if you ever need to reload that actual backup, you're going to click on the little clock in the top right, and then that will give you the option to restore it. So this will protect you in case you do anything that you don't like, you mistakenly changed a setting that you don't know what it was and you just want to start over. Start with that restore option, and then it'll bring you back to your starting point. So let's go ahead and start selecting some ECUs. And I will say some of the things that you would typically code on here is already built into my car. So I can already roll the windows up and down with the remote. I can already fold in the mirrors using an option in iDrive already. So some of these features are already enabled, but I'm going to talk about the ones that I don't have enabled so that we can turn those on. So let's start with the body domain controller. So the first thing I want to change is the window lifter interruption when opening a door. So that can be kind of annoying if you do the one touch window close and you open the door, the window is going to stop moving. And especially in this car, like there's no real pinch issues or anything. Like I'm not going to have something hanging out the window. So I just want the window to close all the way if I hit that one touch close, even if I open the door. So we'll open that up and change it from active to not active. And then don't forget to hit save. And now we'll keep going through all of these modules. You can change everything in this ECU that you want to change. And then once you have it all selected, we'll code the whole car. The next thing I'm going to change is my default driving mode. Normally the car starts in comfort, but you can set it to automatically start in sport or any mode that you want. In my case, I want to set it to adaptive. So I'm going to select adaptive here, and that way my car will always start in adaptive mode. Next, I'm going to change my rain light sensor sensitivity, and I've noticed the lights turn on a little bit early, and also the wipers are a little bit hyperactive. They swipe when there's little to no rain. So you can see it's set to sensitive. I'm going to open that up and change it back to normal, and hopefully that makes it at a more calm frequency because I really don't want the wipers wiping on a mostly dry glass. I'm also going to change the hazard warning signals after emergency braking. So that means that if you do emergency brake and slam on the brakes, the hazards will automatically turn on, and that'll help tell people behind you that there's something in the road, something that they need to pay attention to. So hopefully they won't rear end you if they're paying attention. So we'll click on that and flip it to active. And then of course the lighting stuff. So this is really common, the fog lights off with high beams and also the fog lights with parking lights. For US regulations, they don't allow you to have all of your lights on at the same time. And I really don't use the fog lights on this car very much, but if I do want to use them, especially if it's, really crappy weather or something where it's actually helping me see, I don't want it to be disabled because of the light mode that I have. So for fog lights off with high beam, we'll set that to not active. And then for the fog lights with parking lights, we'll set that to active. So I will be able to turn on the fog lights even when the parking lights are on. Now, the other thing that I'm not going to modify here, but I think is cool, is for the heated seats, you can actually set the temperature. So if the seats feel like they're getting too hot or not hot enough, you can change the settings. Now, usually I would recommend changing the setting for level 2, because obviously if 1 is too cold or 3 is too hot, then, 2 can be somewhere in the middle. But if you just want, the 3 options, since when you click it the first time, it automatically goes to level 3. If you just want to set that to your perfect temperature, then you can do that here, and then you won't have to click through menus to get it to the exact right temperature you want. Now we're also going to do the boot lid opening delay. It's currently at ½ second, so I'm going to change that to 1 second. The reason is because it's really common for me to mistakenly hit the button in my pocket and then the trunk opens up. So we're going to make that delay a little bit longer just so it's less likely for that to happen. We're also going to change the steering wheel heating memory. So normally you click on that and see the automatic setting is for 15 minutes. So if you just run in and out of a gas station or something like that, it will automatically keep that on. But I'm going to change it to 24 hours. And the reason is I do just want it a little bit longer, maybe like an hour, but there's no option for that. But there are times where maybe you go in and eat some food or, have like an event or something. And it would be nice to just have everything set up in the car when you're driving back home. So this way it'll automatically keep it on. And most of the time, this is in the middle of winter when you're using these settings anyway. So if it's always cold and you turn it on, you probably always want it to be on. So I'll just set it to 24 hours. And that way, most of the time when I get back in the car, it'll automatically be on. All right. And then, like I said, once you've got all these settings set, hit code, and it will go ahead and code that module. Now, I'm doing this with the engine running right now. You'll actually see things like, depending on the module changing, it'll reset in the car. Sometimes it'll throw some error messages and stuff like that, but they should clear. If anything doesn't come back fully, the recommendation is to let the car go to sleep. Overnight is even better. And then the next day when you turn the car back on, everything should be back to normal. So if there's anything weird going on, just give it some time. And usually once the modules reset, then it gets back to what you expect. All right, so now we're going to go to the engine control unit, and I'm not actually going to change anything here, but I do want to highlight some stuff that I know a lot of people are interested in. The first 2 being set for auto start stop. So you have one that sets memory. So if you turn it on, it will always be on. If you turn it off, it will always be off. And basically all you have to do is push the button in the car and then set it and forget it. The other option is to permanently disable it. So if you go to the auto start stop function and disable it, then it will never turn on. Personally, I don't mind it, especially in this car. It's kind of a bigger car. If it helps save a little bit of gas, it doesn't bother me, and it's not really that aggressive. It doesn't really intrude on how I drive the car. So I just leave mine at the factory settings. But if you do want to enable that memory function, you can do it here. Just keep in mind, some people have noticed that if you have software for this module after March of 2023, then this no longer works. And supposedly BMW did a software update that disabled this functionality because there was some issue, complication with the transmission controller not turning off. If you have auto start stop disabled, I don't know. I haven't had that issue, and I know it seems like a lot of other people haven't, but some problem that they had with like battery drain or whatever motivated them to disable that in the native software. So just keep that in mind. Depending on how new your car is, you might not be able to disable it fully. Then the other two options are for your battery. So if you do upgrade, quote unquote, your battery to a larger size or just change the size, then you can go into here and select the actual amp hours of the new battery that you put in. And that way all of the car's electronics will compensate for the size of the battery you installed. All right, next we will go to head unit, and this has a lot of cool stuff as well. So the first thing I want to do is set up the Bauer and Wilkins sound settings, and this one is definitely underrated. It's not a game changer, but I would say it gives you a lot more than you probably expect. So if you have the Harman Kardon system in your car, this enables the Bauer and Wilkins settings, which gives you a couple extra options for like the Logic 7 surround to make it a little bit more submersive and a lot more clear and everything. So I've been playing around with it. It's definitely cool. I haven't been able to pick one because they all just sound a little bit different, but it just gives you more customization to the audio system. So I definitely recommend turning that on if you have that option. Then we can also set the start animation. So this one's really cool because, of course, the standard default is just like the generic BMW logo, but you can set the Alpina logo, you can set the Rolls-Royce logo, or in my case, I changed it to the M Variant 1. Just a nice little touch. It's not an M car, it never will be, but it's cool to see that on the dash. Next, on the tire pressure control, you can go into there and add in temperature settings. So normally it only shows the pressure on the tires, and some cars it doesn't even show that. In this car, it was kind of cool that it actually already showed the pressure, but it didn't show the tire temperature. So now you can add in the setting that also shows the temperature of the tires, since the TPMS can measure it anyway. I don't know why they don't show it. Maybe they think it's too cluttered, but for people like me that just like to see the numbers and data and stuff, it's definitely a nice touch. Next, we have an option to add the tire widget to the cluster. I turned that on. It's not as useful. I thought it was going to be a nicer looking display, but at least in my case, it just kind of shows the numbers. So maybe there's something else I need to enable to show like a full car, or like the little 4-wheel pattern or whatever. But I guess it is cool to be able to see it just inside the cluster if I don't want to take over the iDrive display. Now here we've also got settings for the heated seats automatic activation, as well as the heated steering wheel automatic activation. Now I did not set it up for automatic heating in the rear, but for the front for sure, I want to be able to have that setting, because if you're driving, then obviously you're going to want that. So I went ahead and turned those on as well, and then I forgot I need to enable that in the body domain controller. So some of these have like 1 of 2, 2 of 2. That means that there are 2 different checkboxes that you need to enable in order for the setting to fully work. But once you turn that on, then in the heated seat settings, you should be able to set a temperature where anything below that temperature, when the car turns on, it'll automatically enable the heated seats and the heated steering wheel. Then the last thing that's really important to me is all the warnings. So when you turn on the car, the iDrive displays a bunch of stuff. When you use the cameras, it displays a bunch of warnings. We want to disable all of that. It's unnecessary, especially every single time. So go into, for example, the warning at startup, change that to not active, go to the camera warning, change that to not active, and we are good to go. Next, we're going to go to the instrument cluster. And the first thing I want to do is change the layout. So for those of you that have seen, there are a couple different options for like the text font and stuff like that. So we've got the factory standard one, but there's also an M Performance one. You have 2 options, up to 160 miles an hour or up to 200 miles an hour. This car barely breaks 120, so I just left it at 160 miles an hour. You've also got the M and the M Sport, which I'm going to play with as well to see what those look like. And then of course the Alpina one for anybody that wants to try that. Not personally my cup of tea, but the M Performance, M Sport ones seem pretty cool for people that like something that looks a little bit cooler. And I'm jumping in here again because I realized I forgot to mention the cluster refresh rate. Somehow I skipped over that while I was filming. But as you can see, there are different options for the cluster refresh rate. Standard is 2 Hertz, but you can increase it to 5 or 10, and that will help reduce like the jumpiness that you see in your speedometer. So if you're accelerating quickly, it'll kind of skip numbers because of the refresh rate. Most people say if you jump up to 5, it pretty much fixes it. But if your car is faster, then you might even bump it up to 10 to make sure you don't have any skipping in your gauges while the numbers are being updated. So definitely a nice touch so the numbers actually roll over while you're driving. You can also change the red line. So mine factory is 6,500 RPM. Even though it revs out to 7,000, it starts turning red at 6,500, and you can change where the red line is, either start it shorter or raise it higher, depending on your vehicle and what you want. Maybe you don't actually shift there, but this will at least change how it looks on the gauge if you like that. Now next we're going to go into the power tailgate module, and this is probably one of my biggest headaches with the car. Everything allows you to open the tailgate, but it seems like nothing makes closing the tailgate easy. So we're going to finally fix that. So normally when you open the tailgate, you can't close it with the remote. And in order to close it with the button in the car, you have to hold it all the way until the door closes. So there's no one-touch close. So let's go ahead and fix that. So for the first option, tailgate function when pushing the button on the interior, I'm going to open that up and change it to open and close. Right now it's push to open and then pull and hold to close. I guess just to make it more difficult so you don't mistakenly close it on something. Now we're just going to change it so pushing it opens and closes it, so I can basically just push a button. Then we also have the function of closing the tailgate with the button in the interior without the long press. So this is option number 1 that I've wanted, finally found it. So change that to active, and now when you pull the button once, the trunk should close and you won't have to sit there and hold it all the way until it closes all the way. And then the next one is the tailgate function with the remote control. So we'll change that from only being able to open it to now it will be able to open and close it as well. But we're going to go back and change how you actually close it with the remote. And when I open it, it's a long press, right? I have a second long press. So when we close the tailgate, I want it to be a long press as well. I don't want to have any inadvertent actions coming from the remote being in my pocket. So we're going to go to the option to close the tailgate with the remote control without long press and change that to not active. And then finally, the warning sounds, I set those to active because I don't mind that, especially because I have kids and stuff walking around. I do want everybody just to be aware when the tailgate is closing. So if you're back there and I don't see you or something, you get the warning and you know to get out of the way. So that doesn't really bother me, but if you want it off, then of course leave it off. All right, we're almost done, guys, okay?
Okay.
All right, and we're back for a third time because as you can see, the video cut off because my GoPro overheated, and that's definitely a problem I've run into in the past. So if you guys want to see me make a video ranting about my GoPro Hero 12 and testing my new Hero 13 to see if the cooling is any better, let me know. That'll probably be in a future video, but we'll just finish this one from the garage where everything is normal. So there are a couple other settings that I wanted to change. The first one is active sound design. This is basically the fake engine noise that's generated from the speakers inside of your car. This can help make sure that the car is quiet on the outside, but from the interior, you still kind of feel the sensations of the engine noises and things like that. Now, a lot of people like to turn it off. It doesn't really bother me, and as you can see on my car, it's not even enabled anyway, but if you do have that enabled and you want to turn it off, you can definitely do that from the option here. Next is the BMW signal tones, and this is an option where you can basically change how the tones sound. So in different cars under the BMW umbrella, they all have different gongs and stuff for messages that pop up on the cluster. So you can change those around to make it sound a little bit different. Again, I just left mine as the factory BMW because it's okay with me, but feel free to try and turn your car into a Rolls Royce if you wish. Now, next you have an option to disable the interior motion detection. And this is important because up above your headliner, there's a little sensor that looks for motion, which is nice because even if somebody smashes your windows or you leave a window open and they reach in your car, they don't actually have to open the door to set off the alarm. Even if it senses motion in the interior, that will set off the alarm as well. But this might not work if you have an animal in the car or your kids in the car or something, where the interior motion alarm could be set off even when it shouldn't. So in this case, you can disable the alarm, and that way you can leave your pets in the car even if you have the windows down and stuff like that, and lock the car, but it won't actually set the alarm off. So the next option you can modify is for the OBD alarm. And this is key because especially if you guys have tuned your car or done anything else with your OBD adapter plugged in and you tried to leave it in the car, and when you lock the car you probably noticed that the alarm went off. This is because in the standard configuration the car is going to trip the alarm if it senses any power being pulled from the OBD port. So in this option you can disable that functionality, and that will allow you to leave an OBD adapter plugged in after you lock the car, and it won't set off the alarm. And then the last thing is the heated seat memory. So we can set this just like we did with the heated steering wheel memory. You can do this for the driver and passenger seat individually. And again, if you want to change it to 24 hours or unlimited or completely disable the functionality, you can do that from this menu as well. So those are all of the features that you can code into your X7 simply from Bimmercode. Again, if you guys want to see a video on the more advanced functionality using expert mode, let me know. There are a lot of other things you can do, like adding extra driving modes or setting up coding for different additional options that you've added onto your car and making things work. So it's really nice to have all of that capability from your phone. So a big thank you to Bimmerlink and Bimmercode. Those guys have supported the channel for a while. I'll also have a link to my F-Series coding video in the video description if you guys want to learn how to code like an F30 or F20 or older BMW, and hopefully this helps you get the options that you want. So otherwise, I think that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.